So I hope guys you're doing really well today. Ramadan Karim to start with. So I'll be covering some of the very important concepts of Python programming language. We will see what we can learn today. Right. So we'll start with the list. Let's say we have a list and let's call it LST. So we have a list, and list starts and ends with a square bracket. So in the list, we have few fruits. Let's say we have apple, we have mango, we have dates. And we know a list can hold many types of data. It can hold non-type of data, it can hold string, it can hold integer, it can hold float. So it can hold a lot of the types of data in one square bracket, right? So now let's try to give it some integers. Let's say we have 20 apples, we have 30 mangoes, and we have 50 dates, right? So now if we go and print this LST, it should give us back the list that we created, right? So you already got the list that we created. But now we want to do something else. What we want to do is we want to print each of these items here on the list. We want to print all of these items one by one over here. So for that, we're going to like for I in list. So what I means like what for means go through. This is how we're going to interpret for. For meaning go through, I meaning each and every item in the list. So what for I in list means go through each and every item in this list. So we can write go through each and every item in the list. Right. So now we will write how to make it go through and print the data. So let's say we want to print I. Let's comment this out. We don't want to print this. Oh man. So let's print I. See, it is printing each and every item one by one. First is to it goes to apple, it prints apple, then it goes to 20, it prints 20, it goes to mango, then it prints mango. Okay, but now I want to see if from this list I can identify my data type or not. So let's write a program which will help us identify the data type from this list. So for which we have to write if type, that is a function we know that tells us what is the type of a particular data. We put I because this I means whatever the item this iterator or this program is on, the cursor is on. All right, so if I equals to integer, we want the printer to print is an integer. So if I is an integer, it will print it is an integer, else it will print what? Print not an integer, right? Not an integer. So let's run the program. See, over here it says not an integer. So when it goes to Apple, the I is on Apple, so it checks the type of I on the apple, and it is checks whether it is an integer or not, and then it says no, it is not an integer, because apple is definitely not an integer, it is not a number, and on top of that it is inside two quotation marks, which is like indication of a string. So it is a string but not an integer. All right, so and then it goes to an integer, really an integer, which is 20, and then it prints what? It is an integer, right? So, okay, so using this very fundamental, what now we will try to do is find out how many fruits we have. For that, we have to take a variable over here. Let's take a variable, we call it sum, and the initialization is 0. So this is kind of like a basket. We create a basket, and where we right now have 0 fruits. Okay, so you can call it a basket where we have right now 0 fruits. And now we'll move forward and we try to do the same thing. Here we see if type of if type of I is an integer, what we do is we take this value, right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to rotate or iterate through these items. We go first to the apple, then we go to I, next time, which is 20. So this one is not a string, so we leave it. And this 20 is like this one, like apple is a string, but 20 is an integer. We take the integer and then we add it to our existing value, and then we move to the next one. It is not an integer, we leave it, we continue, we go to 30, and we add it back to our total summation, and then this is like how it works. So let's see it in action. So remember, we took sum, right? So if it is an integer, we're going to call the sum, we're going to add this value of integer to this variable. So we will write plus equals to I. What is like how why I? Because this I is the value of 20. Because when you iterate through these, this I becomes whatever and wherever the processor's cursor is. So if the processor's cursor is on 20, the value of I is 20, right? We already saw it here. So when the cursor was on 20, so the value of I was 20 because we were printing 20, meaning we were printing I. So it becomes I. So what happens every time it goes to an integer, it takes the value and adds it to this sum. So overall, at the end of the day, the value of the sum is actually the total value of the apples we have or the fruits we have. So let's try to print else continue. So we will try to print sum. If we run the program, see it is giving you the total apples or the fruits we have, right? So we have total 100 fruits, so it is giving you 100 fruits. So yeah, and you can run the same program on your Jupyter notebook as well. So you can just go to, like any of the Jupyter notebook cells, and you can copy this code, I mean, replicate, try to follow along with me. So once you follow along with me and do the same as I did, you will have a very good understanding of how the for loops, if statements, and the list works. And we will slowly move forward in the next video onto the visualization. Thank you.